If you are looking to make a move and have reached out to an online lender and just haven't got the level of customer service that you want, this video is going to be great for you. I'm going to be chatting with my local lender partner, Lauren Walton, and breaking down what are the benefits of using a local lender versus an online lender. So we are back with Lending with Lauren Walton of ACM, and we are going to dive into the importance of using a local lender, realtor, versus maybe somebody that you've just found online. And I mean, I've had it happen several times where I've had a client reach out, they say that they've already been pre-approved. We get the loan disclosure and see the various fees on there and find out like, okay, maybe they are saying that they're getting a better rate, but they're not necessarily once you actually break everything down.
Yep.
Do you want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like, the importance of having local partners and, obviously your realtor, your lender, and even beyond that, you want to have people that really understand the local market. And Nathan is exactly right. I'll often get calls from people who went online and they found an online lender and it appears as though they're getting a better rate. But often when we get the loan disclosures and we get the loan estimate, there are hidden fees. And so often that's built in with points or just other fees that they have increased to be able to offer you the lower rate. So I think the most important thing is you shouldn't just get one opinion. You should get a couple of different opinions. You should definitely ask your local realtor for some recommendations and you should compare apples to apples. And certainly we're willing to help you do that. And beyond me, you should always get a couple second opinions so that you can compare apples to apples for yourself. But some of the things I tell my buyers is, if you call and you're comparing lenders, don't just ask about rate and fees. We understand that those are very important components to the loan process, because that's at the end of the day what's coming out of pocket for you, at the closing table and also on a monthly basis. But there are far more questions you should be asking your lender. So for example, you want to know who you're going to be working with throughout the process from start to finish. Are you working with one person? Are you going to get passed off to other people? What is the communication you're going to receive? What is the lender's availability? Nathan could definitely speak to this. Oftentimes our buyers are looking at homes on nights and weekends. And so I have previous lending experience working at a big bank, and unfortunately we weren't allowed to work nights and weekends. We weren't allowed to give out our cell phone. And so that could mean you as a buyer could be missing out on homes that might be only accepting offers through Sunday at 4 p.m. And so it's just really important to understand more than just the terms. What are the post-closing incentives? Who's going to service your loan? Who do you reach out to? How do you get a hold of them, right? I get calls all the time like, we can't reach the lender. Could you help us? So just make sure that you are putting together a robust list of questions to ask your lender. And the biggest thing I think for us to articulate is the accountability that there is between the two of us. And so, if Nathan needs to get a hold of me because we have a client putting in an offer, he knows how to reach me, he knows where to reach me, and he knows he's going to be able to reach me. And so with our relationship, there's not going to be any slipping through the cracks. There's not going to be any dropping of the ball because we've built a long-lasting relationship, and it's important to us to make sure that we continue to have our buyers, winning. And
I have had it where I have had clients and obviously refer them to my local lender partners, but they insist on using a lender that they found online, and it usually, I would say 9 times out of 10, there are rare instances, but there is something that happens where, again, you can't get a hold of them, and we are Sunday evening, there's multiple offers, and you submit an offer without a property specific pre-approval. And that could be crazy, but the difference between you getting that house and not getting that house. And again, having a lender, because I put you on every email to that listing agent and connect you with them, and like you reach out to that listing agent and say, hey, this buyer is qualified, they have XYZ, it's going to be a smooth process, we've already done all of these things. And that's something that you might not get from somebody who's online and have that level of service.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a concern, right? If you can't reach a lender or the buyer can't reach a lender, how is the listing agent going to reach that lender? And what is the communication going to be throughout the process? You, the listing agent, the buyer, they're going to need updates often, right? A couple times a week. And so if that person's already lacking in communication on the front end, what is that process going to be like? And so I think that is so important. And oftentimes I get agents telling me that online lenders are asking for closing extensions. And the risk there as a buyer is that the seller does not have to agree to extend the closing. They could keep your earnest money, which would be, you being out that money, which is not, it's expensive, right? A couple $1,000s typically for earnest money. You could lose that earnest money. The seller could not agree to extend closing. That house can go back on the market, and then you're stuck, starting back at square one with a couple $1,000s less in your pocket. And so that's what I often see, is that the online lenders, it's tough to hold them accountable. And so because of that, they will easily and quickly ask for closing extensions, even on the front end, if they promise those quick closings. So it's just making sure that you're protecting yourself and that you're doing the due diligence to understand what you could be at risk for.
And touching on the rates too for a moment too, because you were just talking about an example where it was a HELOC or a refi, and the rate looked like it was so much lower than what the market rate is currently. Can you touch on that? Because I was like, yep, that tracks. That makes sense.
So this client was looking to refinance their investment property, and they reached out to me and told me they got a quote from an online lender at about 5.99%, which felt pretty low for an investment property. Investment rates are always a bit higher because they're riskier. And I was like, why don't you send me over the closing disclosure or the loan estimate so we could take a look at that. And there was about $5,800 in points, which this was a $180,000 loan. So that was approximately about 3 points being added in that they just didn't even see and they didn't know. And so again, really important that you're not committing to something without having a couple sets of eyes on it, just to make sure that you're not exposing yourself to increased costs. And when we compared, if they wanted to pay the points, our rate was significantly lower, but it really did not make sense for them to pay that many points.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's like, you don't hire me as your realtor to just open the door and let you see the house. Like, you have me to be there every step of the way, get educated, understand what risk might be involved with purchasing the house that you're interested in, getting you connected with contractors, making sure title has everything, making sure you have all the knowledge. So there's so many steps that me as a realtor do, and it's the same thing for you as a local lender. Like, the education along the whole process and making sure that you cater your products to that individual client is so key.
Well, that's what I love, how you run your business. It's almost like a concierge service, and I know it's taken you a lot of time to get the right team behind you and the right partners, and so that's so important, because you've been on the other side where you've had poor partners and you haven't had people that you feel like are the right fits for your team. And so having your team of inspectors and having your team of title companies and lenders, you've worked hard to create that. And so for the clients that work with you to be able to trust you that you've created the right team.
Well, and and that's why you're part of my team. She is right on my team. It is so important, and you don't know as a potential home buyer until you don't know, and until you have it in a instance. And there's been several times where I've worked with clients who might have used a different lender or realtor for their first purchase, and it's not that level of service that they expect and that level of education that they expect that we provide to our clients just as a standard.
And a lot of times if that happens, then they'll come back the next time around and like, can you please refer us to your team? We want to make sure that we have the right people behind us. And so we want to make sure that you're in the best hands right off the bat every single time.
So if you are starting the home buying process or looking to make that move and want a killer duo here in Columbus, Ohio, make sure that you reach out. I would love to set up a one-on-one consult call with you, get you connected with Lauren, and make that home buying journey a reality. So as always, my name is Seabus Nathan. Put out videos every Friday. Like, subscribe, follow along, and I'll see you next week.